It's always been here as far as I know.
In a different corner. This is permanent.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to the Grolier Poetry Bookshop. Tonight we welcome Monica Ferrell, Bianca Stone, and Craig Morgan Teicher. They will read in that order. Please give them a warm welcome.
Wow, you don't waste your words. I'm still trying to figure out what to say or read. Thank you so much for having me. This is actually kind of, not to be sappy, but a dream come true. That's not why I'm crying. But dream come true. But thank you so much for coming on this beautiful spring evening. Okay, am I really gonna? I went to this school down the road, and so that's part of why this is such a formative place for me. I remember the books that I bought here: my first Paul Celan, my first Helderlin, some Rilke.
I was just in that section.
And I was like, who are these guys? I don't know. I don't see them in the Barnes and Noble, but they're here, and I found a home in this store. So thank you so much for all you do for poetry. I'm going to read from this new book that just came out in March, pretty much one long poem, and we'll see if there's any time afterwards for something else. But I don't usually read it because it takes up, it's in sonnet-sized chunks, and there are 9 of them. So, yeah, maybe there will be a little time afterwards. I don't think I need to say anything back in terms of background about it, other than starting from those college days being here, I became obsessed with Rilke and, went on the hunt. And at one point I went to see his, where he started the Duino elegies, the castle of Duino in Trieste in Italy. And that's really it. That's where this poem sort of jumps off. And it coincidentally is called Duino Elegies. Number 1. No one hears. The doll has a mouth and eyes, has a tongue, has a hand that writes. Yet the small soul can't reach the surface and goes unknown. Still it corresponds to the knots in the trees, the throb of blue-white that is a sea down below at the bottom of these cliffs that promise infinity is near. A twist of the ankle and it will rush up to you. The cliffs themselves are solidified shells piled in their millions from the shallow sea that once pulsed here too, where I am standing. Is it wrong to find their scars beautiful? There is no true state, beyond change that is. Ice covered this place once and will return. 2. As soon as, after, the minute, on one occasion, previously, then, some time ago, immediately, the instant, it was the Pleistocene, the Permian, the Hadean. Why? Because everywhere was burning. What stood here, where I am, was orange and hot like you wouldn't believe. Forget the polar bears. The only thing that lived then was nothing, which is a kind of life, the way 0 is a number. Taking the long view, eventually, at the end of the day, how soon is now? I've never been at home in a second. An hour is the white chalked round a corpse. 3. They invented caves, castles, and woodwinds, the kuros, sharp staves, cylinder seals. Invented the 18th century, music boxes and public fountains. We could go at this all day, naming. What surprises me is that the girl, when she leaves my body, starts blank as a cloud bank taping shut the sky. I begin by giving her all the names I know. I fill her up with them and the milk I give until I run out. But it's all right by then. She'll take it from here. She with all those other meteors who keep hailing to Earth. They'll invent new ones. A whole tomorrow hammered out of names I haven't heard. 4. No one's lived in this place 100 years. Most days, the mirrors are empty but for light, the face of a bare wall opposite. Here something ceased being, a way of life, princesses, the carronade, candlelight. But how can anyone ever vanish? Think of a painting, the hours transferred into the canvas by that artist standing at easel, dwelling in it. Those hours stay and reverberate. They enter me, the viewer, through the color's frequency, till suddenly this evening has a strange sweetness, like an ancient ammonite changed utterly to iridescent amylite, everything rainbow. 5. I lived with a man with a cat who was dying. Well, before it died, it disappeared. 2 days I couldn't find it. Then at last it comes stalking out from his room like a revenant from the grave, straight to me, swear to God, tears in its eyes, like, not 1 day more, please. That was it. Such dignity. We called the taxi. A vet saw us right away. On the table, the cat looked only at me, like a last light fading. And that's it, right? Right? In my daughter's science book are pictures, questions. Is a tree alive? A pen? A mountain? In all honesty, I know nothing. 6. To unremember everything, to unpack the body of all its references, and who are the handmaidens of this operation? The boiled soul become gas, all the ribbons of the flesh's pillows untied, and in the soil then to give up nitrogen, manganese, cobalt for some other animal's use. The eyes dissolve their own visions as dirt dissolves the eyes. Only a whiff of dream remains above the scene of the splayed calcium and architecture left behind like the broken walls of Troy. To unbecome, walk backwards into twilight that turns toward a different dawn. 7. Imagine ice over Iceland, over Svalbard, Franz Josef Land, Novaya Zemlya, the Barents Sea, which then was not a sea as it didn't move, and over this strange frozen world, which from space must have looked extra bluish then, only a few thousand in our meager herd. Homo whatevers holed up in limestone dwellings, awaiting the age when our kind would build a ship that took us to see the view from the moon. That's a fallacy, though. It isn't waiting when you don't know what's coming next, just as we've no idea what's in store for us. Can't ask the citizens of Atlantis how it felt when the water started whispering, at first a trickle. 8. I pile alphabet block on alphabet block. The way the walls in Duino Castle stand is how I built these embankments for you to walk upon with a view of churning blue. Out of letters I grow a courtyard garden and invite the bees, hoping they will visit, then leave me. Out of lines I weave warp and weft or woof a 14-stranded fabric into my own chronicling tapestry where I'll appear poorly proportioned and pale, like the conquerors in the one at Bayeux. Nevertheless, you have seen me. These two worn brown hands wrote my bit of backlit graffiti upon a laptop. Every word of writing is a form of goodbye. 9. On the one hand, cold, wind, crystals, the pure abstraction of the subtraction symbol, bleach, vinegar, the force of waves, everything that strips away. On the other, music, night-blooming jasmine, bats and worms, milk, jade, the color fuchsia, the letter X, not as the sign of multiplying, but for how it declares here, now. Tattoos, of course, that famous smell of babies, hug even of a stuffed toy penguin, all our animal verves and instincts tingle in the dark sense of direction. The glass half full, half empty. I reached between my legs to feel a soft head. That was you, future, breaking through. That's that one. Let's see if okay. Yeah, I do have time. Cool. Then we can do some hopefully funny ones. I do often feel like I'm sitting over here being like, we're all gonna die. I hope you know that. I just learned it. Yeah, let's see, I'll read. Poets doing math. All right. Like 3 more. This one's called You Can Fold Me. I don't take up much space. On the airplane, I cross my legs. In bed, I curl into a whirl. In the shower, I bow my head. But what's going on inside my brain keeps exploding, full supernova, getting huger every year that I shrink. It's very deceptive. It's a kind of protection. Sometimes people even look through me, like at that voting booth in Brooklyn. The man, oh, sorry, ma'am, didn't see you there with your screaming children. I said, fuck you. I invented the future. What the hell is it you do? You think you're so big. All right, and here's one that takes place at my local supermarket, the Price Chopper. At the Price Chopper. Such pretty apples in their crate, all suspiciously clean. They're integers on a balance sheet. They're pure ideas straight from the brain of Monsanto. No Eve or Adam, no worm ever nibbled on the likes of these, Granny Smith. Somebody in a lab somewhere must have mixed the chromosomal brew from which they grew, till the day a robot picker strafed their orchard's leaves with metal fingers. Et voila, aisle 3, behold the apple, sanitized as a baby doll who only feigns her pee and weeping. It's a cyborg, half malic, half plastic, a fantasy of nature without the dirt, the maggots, without death. But despite the best efforts of capital and machines, death is with us real ones. Animal, vegetable, the rot leaks out, spreading its stain like the black mold parading over this produce section's popcorn ceiling tiles, a sort of Alexander leading his army through the Gedrosian desert perpetually. It's on the move, always coming for me, like that man at Hompy, 112 degrees when he stuck his face grinning into mine, as though he had my death in his back pocket like a bright idea. Or that crevasse-cut field where I tiptoed on my skis through the bleak. One way or another coming for me. And it's all right. Whoever talks to me about headstones, I say I prefer sky burial. Leave me outside for vultures and the like, to the extent permissible by Health and Human Services guidelines. Not for me some mahogany sarcophagus or that waxy cast slathered on by the beautician at the funeral home where they made my father look like a Pez dispenser who ran out of Pez, laid down on a satin pillow, and hence to the pretense of sleep. I'll take the sky any day, the mud, sweeter than whatever these apples on their styrofoam tray ever tasted in that God-forsaken factory where they were shaped. An American apple, wrote Rilke, is empty and indifferent, a pretend thing, a dummy of life. I'd rather try my luck with a bruise, take flesh softly mush-spotted as an old woman's thigh between my lips, feeding me by filling my cells with its memories of summer breeze. After all, I prefer myself, bat-winged or dew-lapped, crow-footed or smile-lined, to some confection that refuses decay. This way, it's plain to see. I've had my years. I lived here. One last little one. Cosmos. And thank you so much for your attention. I was like, I faked you out. I'm gonna tell some funny ones. I'm like, death is with us. Here we go again. Childhood. No, that's not it. I said Cosmos. Never mind. They look so similar. Start with a C. I signed my name on the contract anew every morning that I walked to school. Pulling a little kid in each fist, I paid the future for those bodies we borrowed. I prepare for my replacement by filling their mouths with a whole jar of marbles, English words and mincing syntax, dates, the names of revolutionary men. Soon they will become the is and I a was. At best, I will be a late Roman shield thrown in a bog, engraved with illegible prayers, or a murk-dirtied corpse like a burnt candle, pollen-dusted rings moving concentrically away from me. Look at those two, crossing the street, radiant with new day, more beautiful than I have ever been. Listen, I'm not sad. As long as I can, I will work my little flute, which is to say, this body with all of its stops, making a sort of music. Thank you.
My phone. I'm gonna grab my phone. My companion. The circuitous path towards inertia. If you want to know anything, consider the distance between you and the dying of things. One might linger there in an eros of silence. If you want to know anything, you must drive in a different vehicle with your difference locked inside it to a reading in Salem, Massachusetts for $100 and dinner and a place to stay. Your daughter makes two bottle caps wander around in her lap in the back seat, and she names each of them and you both sing a song you've played all September, a piano and a woman's dusky voice in regret and love. She sings, moving you in a held agreement that music cannot be possessed, though it takes over the whole body with a song of self-destruction, which is its own specific pleasure, eroded déjà vu. You're moving fast on the road, winding through the mountains of Vermont in a heavy traffic, all towards the same goal, towards Freud's death instinct, no doubt. How he said, what we desire most is to return to the old state of things, the first stony, lifeless form we held, how we lived merely a circuitous path towards inertia, on a road distinctly repeating itself on all sides as this one, with the vertical green slopes of bowed ferns, a green waterfall, hiding the ground that is thick with sunk fronds, and tiny curled rinds of insects, the layers of what was once the incessant clinging and letting go. You're happy. You're moving with your child to a room full of willing people. For language drew you out to the back roads through the mountains, heavy with cars. And at the one big turn where the signal drops, 2 turkey vultures are crouched in a lane, pulling at the meat of some run-down animal. And you remember something about the original angels having 6 wings, 2 to cover their feet, 2 to cover their faces, and 2 for flight itself, carrying important messages for a silent God. While their cries of jubilation were terrible, and their strange ways were performances of paraplegia and blindness and deference, since it was known too they had names and strode between men and God, and their wings were riddled with open eyes. And you remember how little you carried messages for yourself for so long. You lived as an ambassador to others' pleasures and suffering until they became your own. But too, you would pretend to know the notes on the clarinet in school band, hoping to be overlooked by the conductor, and how you'd stay like that, closing your eyes, pretending to be swept up in the music, until you really were, and the reed in your mouth became the same fever as your mouth, as if it had always been there. The gaze of the vulture is a downward gaze. It rises like the earth itself, slow and heavy and dark. The corpse assimilating within it, its back to you. You think if you'd had seen its face, you would have seen fire there, and you would have had to stand it. The wing bones hunched like someone trench-coated, upon whom heavy rain is falling. The deep brown of its feathered form, now intensified in a sluggish urgency, moves to rise right, while the mate goes left. And it seemed like a pregnant woman getting up off the floor after kneeling to pick up a toy, so slow in its great bulk that the car before you clips it and it reels sideways and falls, trembling, undifferentiated, ironic, no shadow but itself, and you drive on. I dedicate that one to Danielle, who always puts me up in Salem, Massachusetts when I come to give readings around here. Yeah, I wasn't going to read this one, but since we're standing in a room full of poetry books, many contemporary poetry books, and we're having a very vivid conversation in the car on the way here about the act of being a poet and creating books and being in poetry workshop and being in MFAs and the issues of money and toil and relevancy and all of it. So I dedicate this one to the poets. The decline and fall of the Roman Empire. So I should also preface this by saying I was staying at my mentor, Dara Barwa Dixon's house in her guest room, and she had a pristine copy of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire 3-volume set. What's happening?
The Zoom audio is a little muffled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they better be complaining on that. Right, so one night I was idly flipping through the random books in the room, but I was looking through that book because I thought to myself, there's a lot going down in this country right now. I want to know how the poets played their part. So I looked up poets in the index in the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. And it was this quote on the page that I found. The name of poet was almost forgotten. That of orator was usurped by the sophists. A cloud of critics, of compilers, of commentators darkened the face of learning, and the decline of genius was soon followed by the corruption of taste.
Yo.
Take note. You must be careful to fall in a certain way, with the raw embryonic field mice thoughts birthed in the junk drawer and their eyes licked open. Careful to let loose a scandalous vision that opens in your head one disfigured wing, and you must attempt to translate the gray ring left greasy round the tub of skull, where the ocean was a second before you woke, with its entire word you barely grasped by syllable or sight. And without pay, too. Amid the throng, whose bite is bored and bottom line and on the hill, look not for love from them, but for the small return of distant lyric sent shy and bold across the air from some reader in their night. Let the few suffice, if they can return the call. Alone you hate it all, but write it down, to up and out, strange thing, a screw in your soul, that it goes with nothing, fits nowhere, and yet you build for years and place it hopefully in each failed book. And it builds you too, your shabby architecture, going gray and bald in a shabby chair, your mind drifting to desire and back to watching desire in curiosity, you who make use of the unthought thought with eaten air, and alone for thee in doubt and joy and poverty. I've been thinking about that idea, something building itself in me. It's poet, this important idea, the poet helps people build things in them. Meanwhile, something is being built in me too, if I'm doing the work. I wanted to read this poem, Analysand, from my book. I don't usually talk about this outright, but a big theme in this newest book, The Near and Distant World, is born out of what ended up being a 6.5-year psychodynamic analysis, and just the strange phenomenon that came out of plumbing the psyche in such a different way than I was used to with poetry. Poetry speaks a certain language in the dyad between people, but this analysis is strange. It opened up so much more to me in the complexity of language and the relation. And so the whole idea of nearness and distance became a theme born out of psychoanalysis. So it's a deeply important part of this book. I don't talk about it directly in the matter around the book, but anybody with an eye or ear notices it. And I guess I bring it up because it came to an end recently. Such ambivalence one comes to at the end of such things. Disillusionment and ambivalence Gratitude, life-changing, deeply ambivalent, like any relationship, like any heartbreak. And Alexand. The fantasies are tangled up with the old objective suffering. I'm tired. Just let me sleep. The anger wears you until you're blown away by the slightest breeze. I've worked so hard, self. Now let me sleep. The archetypal defenses with the hidden feeling, my body is leathered with them. I've been rooting around like a truffle pig in the black soil, and the scent on the wind is delicious and rare. Let me go, Rapunzel. You who barely lift your 20-foot braids, but there she goes again, letting her hair down for the witch to crawl back up, to kiss the girl on the lips, to make dark red marks across her sealed mouth. When will it end? Well, there's not much to be done. In terms of thinking it through, it'll start thinking you. Memory is tricky, an issue of the translator. Memory rolled in desire like raw meat in breadcrumbs and yolk, sizzled for ages. It usually gets worse, much worse, burned beyond recognition in front of everyone. You must spend as long as it takes to bear a single word beside another word. You must find some current event in your gaze. You must look up at the eternal stranger, there in an intimacy you'll never see the top or bottom of, just the navel of the dream. And he'll approach and stand at a distance that profits not but for the work, and you must love and make him cry, at least once. Your little drama flayed on the cross in front of him. You must play it out, and then spend hours alone in its aftermath, looking out the window, watching the sky change in one day, watching the hawks circle in it, so high they're like barrettes, matter, caught in the blowing gray hair of a great and bodiless mind. I'm going to end with 2 new poems, and thank you. Poem to the guest, to the friend. If you disappeared, I would go to where you were last seen and turn in different circles, looking for the smell of something. Jasmine, winter rain, and its humming. I would sit at an empty table for as long as it took for you to return, in whatever guise necessary for a voice. I lie ignorant now, like the ice over the clover, asleep in their tiny autumn nightgowns, lies waiting to continue falling through them and into the earth. All around me a mathematics I must turn away from shyly, a technology of darkness. A horse on a shore runs restlessly back and forth in the distance of my gold ship. And something presses a finger against the crack in language, hiding the seam, so that when it lifts, breath rushes back through to make a point about wherever you are, and how you have always known me, and put music on in the other room for me to hear. The geese. Also just say that I love reading with Craig and Monica so much. We've read together quite a few times, so it's such an honor. I love your poems. I love your new books. Damn. I love our overlaps. You were reading and I was like, if I was going to write an essay on her book, I'd write about how she was so interested in the future. And then I looked at your book cover and I was like, oh, it's called The Future. But I noticed it. The geese. Every time I see the night's streaked face, I say your name. Tell us in one night's sleep what is discovered. Our one mission to rise again out of the thigh of Narcissus, declaring I will move now from this spot. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. Morning insomnia, fragile trumpeter, I lie. Heavy my heart, and the birds in it. They suffer onward towards their king. I think they are lost. They are exactly here. I think they cannot find their way. They are already past the threshold. Whoever lived that life and wrote those books is gone. But I have all her old paperwork, bills, the agreements. When glimpsing the words hidden and mirror and ant, she found she was no one. Already on to the next valley, the next withered garden and blizzard. See her down on the dirt road, the last Canadian geese on earth cry out above her, not out of grief, but for the sake of proximity, direction. They do not speak in the language of torment, and those fallen to their knees. They do not see her down below in full blue moonlight, reflecting off each thick snowflake like dead faces shed of all bitter pleasures, finished with all desire. The geese care not for her pity, her concern, nor her past. When they cry out, the others answer. They live not in time, and they remember everything. Thank you all so much. Teicher.
Hi, everybody. It's so fun to read with Monica and Bianca again. We're doing a little tour. I like to think of us as like Lollapalooza, like one of the good years, like when Sonic Youth headlined and we were young and things were better. The last time I read here, somebody took a picture that I have used a lot as an author photo, and the main thing about it that I like is that I had so much more hair. So it's kind of my hope that maybe I'll get more hair after this. My favorite part of poetry readings is the banter, so I might not read any poems. So I'm going to read some poems. So a bunch of the poems in this book are rules for imaginary games that are very bad games. And I kind of stole the idea from Vasco Popa, who has lots of poems that are like much worse imaginary, like that just are really terrifying games. So this is called How to Play Fight. The name of the game is Fight with an exclamation point. First, you must talk until the jar is full of words. Give an equal number to each player who loves the other. It doesn't matter at this stage what they say. Now, turn over your words so the letters face down shamefully. Assemble your words into sentences or what look like sentences blank side up. You never flip them over. Now, take turns reading your sentences at the loudest possible volume. The round ends when each player finally quits. Sentences may be repeated. You never listen. You are always interrupting. Sentences may be repeated. Now both players are yelling together so no one can understand, ever. This goes on. Date night, reconnect. Everyone finds the dark. Of course, no one wins. It's not a game for two players. As you may have noticed, Sonny Rollins died this past week, which, he brought so much joy to so many people. It makes me really sad to think that he had to die now, like looking out the window at this world. And he wrote about he's an album about the environment. I mean, he was really, I don't know, it just must have been really rough to be Sonny Rollins. Anyway, this is a poem that is sort of about Sonny Rollins. And it sort of features a pun. So he had an album called Real Life, R-E-E-L, which was supposed to be about the movies. And so the cover features him sitting on top of a like a movie round thing that they used to project it. But then when they finally put the album out, there were no more of the movie songs on it. So it's just for no reason him on this reel. So the title of the poem is Real Life, R-E-A-L, but the album was Real Life, R-E-E-L. Real Life. The first CD reissue of Real Life, the 1982 album by Sonny Rollins, was released in 2009, 14 years ago. And obviously you have to update the dates here because this poem's a couple years old. Was released in 2009, 14 years ago. Maybe it was his best album since the mid-70s, upbeat, buoyant, springy, awake, cheery, especially on track 4, Sunny Side Up. He must have been in a good mood making this album, which Fantasy Records, now a subsidiary of Concord Records, hadn't re-released on CD until my son Cal was 2 years old, 2 years before my second child was born, a time when CDs were still being manufactured much as they had been since the 1980s, though with less gusto and confidence. I think an earlier reissue had been available in Japan. Memory is an illusion. It's always been now. 14 years is long enough for a tree to grow, as long as my mother and I were both alive simultaneously. She died in 1994, 12 years after the original release of Real Life on LP, and 15 years before the reissue. What will happen when I die to the thousands of out-of-print LPs I've been collecting? Each grainy cardboard sleeve, each disc of pulsing dark is a stone time eddies around, as much mine as my bones, as mine as my money. They will need to be sold or otherwise dispersed. I doubt my mother ever knowingly listened to Sonny Rollins. Her death marked the end of forever, a term of 14 years, almost my 16-year-old son's whole life so far. Not all of Sonny's post-1960s albums are great, fair enough. For 2 years, we struggled to conceive a second child. This was 2009. Simone was born in 2011, 12 years ago, 2 years after the reissue of Real Life, when Cal was 4. That's what happens if you date everything in your life in terms of a random Sonny Rollins album. It's a great album. It's got Jack DeJohnette, and it's just killer. Okay, this is another game. It's called How to Play This Game. So the name of the game is This Game. Each player gets out of bed and dresses. Each player uses the toilet. Then they do what they do in the morning. Then they do what they do in the afternoon. Any activities may be performed. See that each player tires by the time darkness falls. 2 or more may play, not together. This game is played alone. Because it's like, you know, life, and we're all alone inside our skulls and shit. And it sucks. What am I going to read now? More poetry. See, the problem with this book is there's 2 huge long poems in it that I'm never going to read aloud. Here's another game. It's called How to Play Run. Start now, wherever you are. Don't look back. Don't look far. Ban most parts of consciousness. Don't let detail coalesce. Don't you dare forgive yourself. The guilt you live with and on is your fuel. You can start running. You'll be late. Well, you won't. The time isn't ever right. But you're afraid if you don't get going, you might never be afraid enough to go. So go. There's no bang. Just start now. If it's tough, sing a song your mother sang. Can you get away from everywhere? Don't bother trying to hide. You'll also want to run from there. You've widened your stride. The answer is no one. Put all in your legs. Heave the air. Forget the questions, people, reasons you leave. Maybe there's no bear, no sin, no finish line to cross, no cheer. Just your fear and your fear of your fear. As long as you're running, you win. So I'm gonna. This book sort of started as a failed memoir. It turns out that it's really hard to write about your life when you're living it. I feel like people should write their memoirs after they're dead, so that they know what happened. So this is sort of the poem that kind of elegizes the memoir that died. It's called Memoir. And it's a little longer, not that I was born, my mom died, my aunt killed herself, I went to grad school, met Brenda, published a book, worked at a magazine, my son was born in an emergency, then my daughter. I worked at another magazine, I played drums, wrote in my journal, had sex, bought a lot of LPs, smoked a pipe, took care of my son, edged my father out of view, reviewed books, minded my verbs and commas, got stoned, stepped outside, and typed this poem into my phone this evening. I like sets, I like things color-coded, matching, I like a lot of the same thing, neatly arranged. My books are alphabetical by author, section by genre or subject. I like rings, but only wear one. I like toe rings. There are lots of things a poem can accomplish, lots of ways it can proceed. I like pens, fountain pens. I'm left-handed, ink all over the meaty part of my palm. A poem has many possible reasons. A memoir has to tell a story. I used to work in publishing. My favorite is the second or third best of anything. Because my mother died, I am a poet. I am filling the abyss with pebbles. They fall 100 mornings and make no sound when they never land. A memoir has to say, because. Somewhere in the triggering town, Richard Hugo says something about how poets should delete words like but and because. Because I became a poet, I met Brenda, so Calvin, so Simone, so 3 cities and 2 love houses and Cashews the dog. 3 cities and 2 loved houses and Cashew the dog, but not my mother, not my precious grief, because I was born. A memoir is one big thing. Small parts don't sell. Readers want a story. You have to make yourself into a character. You have to laugh at yourself and put your pain in context. You have to tell the truth as if to your mama. But now you're all grown up and your relationship and your readership, huddled in the dim distance, expects a beginning, a middle, an end, and instructions. It's supposed to be this, then that, because. My fingers are cold. It's now. I'm outside smoking and thumb typing this as if to you. Life is a series of present moments, each cresting into the next. Can't a memoir be 2? Why not snapshots? No meaning. Life as it truly is. Moments like sheets of ice crashing, cracking their teeth with excruciating serendipity. A story is whatever. A poem is whatever. Verse reverses. Prose proceeds. Richard Howard. I can't do this that way. I guess I could, but I'm not going to. So what? Because I like this way. The sway, just whatever. Smoke. The poem seems to shape itself. You make a few small decisions, how long the line, how much enjambment, complex sentences or short ones, but even those choices, those concessions are communicated from elsewhere, aren't they? The future, the end of the poem, which the poem already seems to know, though it won't tell you yet, except by beckoning. Come here, it urges, by means of questions and clauses, the grammar illuminating just the next few words. Come to the end, and then beyond the end of this, and then the next sentence. It's its own light. But I can't remember the real story, the true. It was a long time ago. I wasn't there, then barely, looking at the world my one and only time. What did my parents want before I was even an option? What dreams were dashed or fulfilled? Was anything about their lives like a dream? My dad's priceless model ship, my mom's sculpture of the month subscription, that's real. Not the new dining room set. Maybe the little dog who made my mom like dogs. Maybe Lake George with its bowls of morning sun. Maybe me, who could have been anything. Okay, I'm going to read a few new poems, but first I'm going to explain something about them. So I invented a form recently, which is, I'm really proud of it. I invented my own form. And so the first thing I'm thinking about is sort of licensing, and, if people want to write in the form, I'm going to put, on my website, you'll be able to buy a license, like an Adobe license, and in 3 years it'll expire. And then if someone famous writes one of these, like Jericho Brown or something, then the license will go up. And if you don't have a license and you try to write one of these, it won't work. You won't be able to log in at all. So basically, I don't know if this is a good form, but I call it a 5. And basically, it's 5 stanzas, each of which has 5 lines, each of which has 5 syllables. And the other rule is that I can't do that annoying thing that people do when they write syllabics, which is hyphenating words. So I have to make it a full word at the end of a line. So the fun thing about this is it just makes me come up with slightly weirder phrases than I would otherwise. But so I'm going to read just a couple of these and then finish with one more poem from the book.
And yeah, so, and also, of course, all the titles have 5 syllables. So this is called Claustrophobia. Everything I do disobeys a rule. Anything, whatnot, pushing against a vague void, hoping for texture, resistance, love, hint of embrace along a dark fringe. Words and hands cross in air, words catch hands. Some hands attempt words, ever I scratch in self-defense. Oh, anything's allowed if circumstances grow too extreme, to travel through my roots, meet the earth on foot. Worms are also rules. Generations die and are replaced by more generations. God is happy even when things end and die. God's always happy. I think God must always be happy, you know? Because otherwise, why would God do this? It's horrible stuff. This is called Aubade for All Time. The ball rolls after bouncing. Who can be blamed? Everything is an accident. Birth is good luck. Good luck! Not everyone dreams. For every choice made, countless shadows form in the pause between lives, holes for floating souls. No one tries to get trapped in a small, void canker, and yet most folks do. Not everyone is a king or a kid. All struggle to breathe by the end. Anxious, I want a cookie. I get up to get it. Bless you. The future is not real. The past is not real. The present's not real. I want my mommy. Doesn't everyone? Yeah. And then one more of these. It's called Please Send Me Some Mail. Does anyone remember a skit from Saturday Night Live in the 90s called The Hurley Boy? It was Chris Farley and Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler wanted things like, he wanted to be, it was a commercial, and he was like, let me be your dog. And then Chris Farley would try to convince the people watching the commercial that Adam Sandler should be allowed to be your dog or your grandmother or whatever he was asking for. It was my favorite thing. So the first 2 sentences of this quote the rhythm of that sketch, which apparently no one has seen, so that was a waste of time to tell you.
I'm gonna go look it up though.
It's totally worth it. Please send me some mail. Please send me some. It's lonely here, as if there's no phone, nor was there ever anything to say, no words, just sounds, honks and coos and grunts. We are still learning to speak. I'm trying hard to learn to listen, to parse what I hear into finer and finer units of nuance. This is why the sun gets smaller as we approach, why fights so often happen in furniture stores. The true fight is about something else, a point that seems to brighten as the lovers chase their retreating hearts. Okay. Well, can I read 2 more poems? That's the worst thing when poets do that. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Bianca.
What?
The picture, the whale.
Oh.
Bianca drew this picture that I bought for my family, and it's this amazing. It's a whale floating over a stage. He's just floating, but he's a perfectly anatomically drawn whale. He's about, I don't know, 8 or 9 feet long. And on the floor, I really love telling this. Like I've done it many times. And then on the floor, there's just this tiny, perfect bottle of water, as if somehow with his hovering flippers he could get it. And then there's a room full of people like this, and like most of them are like this, and some are paying attention, and like there's sort of people in punky clothes and people in like kind of not punky clothes. And the whale has a little quote, word bubble over him, and he's saying, okay, I just have like 2 more poems. And it's perfect. It's just perfect. So this is the last of my 5s, and it's called This Poem, Draft 5. Lists grow both ways. Something more must be subtracted now. Links between lists and lives are established through sharp slicing of days into certain tasks as if into rooms. I am standing now in the writing room for draft 5 of this poem. Next, I will go walk the dog and go to the allergy doctor, then the store. At the store, I will not walk the dog. At the doctor, I will not write this poem. Writing this poem, I am not at the store. My mind is calm, a dark, misty pool. I am not at the doctor or the store. Okay, and this is my last poem. It's 6 million pages long. No, it's just this poem. It's not 6 million pages long. It's called The Idea. It didn't think it was any good. You are a bad idea, it said to itself. You make everyone miserable. So the idea tried to change. When you feel dark, think of sun, it told itself. But the sun darkened when it thought of it. So the idea tried to go away. I won't think of myself, it thought. But it was someone else who thought of the idea, so it came to mind anyway. The poor idea was frustrated and sad. Think of sun, think of sun. The idea couldn't think of anything but itself. How can a bad idea be good? I'm always me, the same idea. The idea might grow like a shadow or vanish like a point of light. Now it's up to fate, to chance, to time, to no one, to nothing, to never mind. The idea might even pass through you. Forget yourself, and there you are. It takes an eternity to change. Thanks.
Let's give another round of applause for Monica, Bianca, and Craig for the wonderful reading this evening. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to everyone on Zoom. You guys can now meet. Hello. And we have some books for sale. Poets will be signing books. If everyone could please put their chairs up against one of the walls, I'd be very grateful. Thank you so much.
The basketball the last time, and now I accidentally say it.
Those poems are sequenced.